This next demo, I'm going to demonstrate how to knit the two-color honeycomb brioche. This is usually the side one or the right side of the honeycomb two-color brioche pattern. And you can see that the main color, which in my case is light blue, is forming this really interesting mesh texture over the brown or the contrast color. So this is normally side one, and side two, the reverse side, I'll show you that here. I think is a lovely texture as well. It's got this little polka dot texture and pattern going on, so both sides are very attractive. Now I'm going to demonstrate the two-color honeycomb brioche pattern. I've cast on 11 stitches here. It's a two-stitch pattern repeat, but if you need an edge stitch, you need to add an extra stitch to make sure you've got an odd number to give you edge stitches there. I've cast on in my contrast color. This is going to be the color that's in the background, and then I'm going to use as my main color this light blue here, and I need to add it in on the first setup row, which is the main color setup row. So my first stitch in the pattern is just to knit that edge stitch. It's always a little bit fiddly for me when I get started here, adding in a new color, tighten that up just a hair, keep myself a little snug there. And now I begin my brioche slip stitches. So I bring the yarn to the front, and I'm going to slip this next stitch purlwise, and as I do that I'm going to take the yarn over the needle, ready to knit the next stitch. Knit one. Bring the yarn to the front, slip the next stitch purlwise, take the yarn over the needle, ready to knit the next stitch. Let me switch hands here to show you what it looks like when you hold the yarn in the right hand. So I've knit that stitch. I'm going to bring the yarn forward, slip this stitch purlwise, and I'm ready to take the yarn over the top of the needle to knit the next stitch. Yarn forward, slip stitch purlwise, yarn to the back going over the top of the needle, you can see that there, to knit the next stitch. And I continue that across the row, slip, knitting my last stitch. Now, this is a two-color brioche pattern, so I know I'm going to need to knit each row with each color. So instead of turning my work at this point, I'm going to slide everything back to the opposite end of the needle. That's why I need a circular needle, or I could do this on a double point as well, provided I had enough room for my stitches. And now I'm going to pick up my contrast color and work it across the row as well. Now in this is the setup row for the contrast color. What's unique about the two-color brioche pattern is, unlike most brioche patterns, we're going to separate this yarn over wrap from its corresponding stitch, and we're going to do that on this row. Now in this pattern my edge stitches are going to be kept in garter stitch, so I'm going to knit this first stitch. Then I'm going to get ready to purl by bringing the yarn to the front, and with the yarn in front I'm going to slip this yarn over wrap. You can see it here, not the stitch itself, but the main color yarn over wrap. I'm going to slip it to the right hand needle purlwise. Then I'm going to purl the contrast color stitch and the next main color stitch. With the yarn in front, I'm going to slip that yarn over wrap, and I'm going to purl the next two stitches. Yarn in front, slip the wrap, purl, two. I won't switch hands just because I think you can see it, how it would work in either methodology. Slipping that wrap purlwise with yarn in front, purl the next two stitches. Get to my last stitch pair there, slip that yarn over wrap purlwise, purl one stitch, and because this is my edge stitch, I want to keep it in garter, I'm just going to purl it. There we have it. Now, both the working yarn, the main color yarn, and the contrast color yarn are on the same end here, so I know I can turn my work. And now I'm going to work across the row. This is row one of the pattern in the main color. And this will actually be the honeycomb side of the work too. So again, I'm going to knit this first stitch just because it's my edge stitch, and I'm keeping them in garter stitch, keeping every one of those knit. And now I'm going to actually burp together, that's a brioche purl, together this contrast color stitch and the yarn over that's next to it. So I'm going to purl those two together, and now I'm left with just this stitch right here. I'm going to create a brioche slip stitch with the wrap combination. So with the yarn forward, I'm going to slip this next stitch, take the yarn to the back over the top of the needle, bring it back to the front, ready to burp or brioche purl the next pair together. Again, I'm going to slip the next stitch with the yarn in front, taking the yarn over the needle and burp the next pair together. And let me switch hands here so you can see what it looks like as a thrower. Again, I'm ready to slip this stitch. So I have my yarn in front, slipping the next stitch purlwise, taking the yarn over the front of the needle, back to the front, so I can purl together or burp together the stitch and the corresponding yarn over wrap. And sometimes when you're working this stitch, you're just going to have to sort stuff out. That yarn over tends to want to float around a little bit. Just sort it out, find where you're at in the pattern, and you'll be okay. Slip the stitch, take the yarn over the back to the back and around to the front between the needles, burp the next pair, and again, because I'm keeping everything in garter stitch on my edge stitches here, take the yarn to the back and knit that last stitch. You could very easily keep those in purl as well and everything would be just fine. Now I'm going to slip my stitches to the other end of the needle. I'm not going to turn them so that I can come back and work with my contrast color right here. So on this row now, this is row 1 contrast color, I'm going to knit the first 2 stitches, knit 2. Grab that one. Knit 2. Now I'm going to go behind this yarn over wrap and knit the next stitch. So if you can see, there's the yarn over wrap. I'm going to just go behind it and knit that first stitch there, leave the yarn over wrap on the needle. Now I'm going to slip that yarn over purlwise with the yarn in back, and I'm going to knit this next stitch. So again, I get to this point where I have the yarn over, I'm going to go behind the yarn over, knit the next stitch, slip the yarn over, knit the next stitch. Go behind the yarn over right there, knit the next stitch, slip the yarn over, knit 1. Go behind the yarn over, and by this time you can see that knit's kind of peeking out on the side of the yarn over anyway. Knit that, slip the yarn over, and then in this case I'm going to knit 2 to end because I'm knitting that edge stitch there. Now I'm ready to turn. Both contrast color and main color are on the end of the needle here. So I can turn my work, but before I do, you can already just begin to see that little honeycomb pattern starting there. So I'm going to turn the work and start row 2 main color. And here again I'm going to knit my first stitch. Then I'm going to do a yarn forward, slip 1 yarn over. So bring the yarn forward between the needles, slip the next stitch purlwise, taking the yarn over the needle, and I'm going to bark or knit these 2 together. It's a brioche knit or bark stitch. Knit those 2 together. Yarn forward, slip 1 yarn over the needle, knit the next pair together. Yarn forward, slip 1 yarn over the needle, knit the next pair together, or bark. Yarn forward, slip 1 over the needle, bark the next 2 together, and I'm going to end with a knit 2 to keep my edge stitches in pattern. Now I'm not going to turn because I need to work across the row again in my contrast color. So I'm going to knit my first edge stitch here. I'm going to slip this yarn over wrap with my yarn in front. I'm going to move the yarn to the front, slip the yarn over wrap purlwise, purl the next 2 stitches. Keeping the yarn in front, slip that yarn over wrap, purl the next 2 stitches. Yarn in front, purl the next 2 stitches, yarn in front, slip the yarn over wrap, purl the next 2 stitches. And in this case I'm going to just keep purling because I think I probably missed one of those on the last round, and knit the last edge stitch. Now as I turn it around, you're going to begin to see the honeycomb pattern established. And if you just keep going in this method with those 2 rows, each in main color and contrast color, that will develop your 2-color honeycomb brioche pattern. It looks like this on side 1, and on side 2 you begin to see the little polka dot pattern emerging there as well. It's a fun knit. Goes pretty fast once you get it down.